Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, I want you to picture this for a second. You walk into, say, a big airport terminal, right? Or maybe a packed sports bar, or even a really sleek corporate lobby, and you see all these high-def screens everywhere, dozens maybe, some showing different stuff, others perfectly in sync, and there are no messy cables in sight, no one running around fixing things. It just works, almost like magic, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the tech that makes all that possible. We're doing a deep dive into something called WolfPack 4K 60 Hz AV over IP splitters to 24 TVs. Now, I know that sounds like a real mouthful, maybe super technical, but these devices are kind of the unsung heroes behind those huge, seamless multi-screen setups we see all the time. Our mission today: cut through the jargon, figure out how they actually work, and really uncover why they're such a big deal for large-scale AV. We're basing this discussion directly on the product info, the specs, so we get a real factual look at what they can do.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is how this tech represents a pretty fundamental shift. We're moving beyond those old school one cable, one screen connections. We're entering a phase where high-def audio, high-def video, it's all distributed over standard networks, like your computer network. It's a real game changer, especially for those complex places where you need flexibility and scalability. They're not just nice extras anymore, they're essential.
Okay, so let's jump right in. When we say WolfPack 4K 60 Hz AV over IP splitters, what are we actually talking about here? How is it different from, the older ways of doing things?
Okay, so at their core, these are pretty sophisticated devices. They're designed specifically to transmit high-definition audio and video signals using your existing IP network, Internet Protocol. So instead of needing a dedicated AV cable, often some kind of proprietary thing, running to every single display, you're basically sending the video and audio as data packets over the same kind of network your computer uses to get online or share files. It's a paradigm shift, really. The AV system becomes part of your IT infrastructure.
Right. And where would we typically see these deployed? Can you give us a few examples where this network approach really shines?
Oh, absolutely. You find them anywhere you need to get content out to a lot of screens efficiently.
Hmm.
So think large-scale digital signage, those dynamic menu boards in fast food places, or info kiosks in malls or airports. That's a prime example. Also huge in corporate settings. For boardrooms, lobby displays, maybe complex training facilities, and definitely in big event spaces like arenas or convention centers where you've got tons of screens showing live feeds, ads, stage content, all needing to be perfectly synced or switched.
Makes sense. Now, the name includes splitter, but it's not like a simple headphone splitter, right? It's not just physically dividing one wire into many.
Yeah.
What does splitter mean in this IP context?
Exactly, good point. It's not that simple physical split.
Yeah.
In this context, splitter really refers to the system's ability to take one or even multiple sources and then intelligently distribute that content over the network to lots of displays, up to 24 TVs with this specific WolfPack system. But really, the architecture lets you scale way beyond that. It's less about a physical split, more about smart network routing and managing content across many endpoints. It's really an ecosystem.
Okay, got it. Let's dive into the key features then, because this is where we see why these are such game changers. First up, 4K resolution, 3840 by 2160 pixels. We know 4K is sharp, obviously, but for these big deployments like digital signs people walk right past or critical info in a boardroom, what's the real impact of that sharpness compared to, say, standard HD?
Well, it's more than just counting pixels. It's about perceived quality and, honestly, professionalism, trust even. On those large screens, or screens people view up close, 4K ensures every tiny detail, every letter of text, every line in the graphic is absolutely crisp, perfect. That level of clarity, it subconsciously signals higher value, a more credible message. Think about retail. It makes products look more real, more appealing. In a corporate setting, it shows attention to detail, a commitment to quality. That matters for brand image, for effective communication. Blurry or pixelated content can actually weaken your message.
Interesting point about the subconscious impact. And it's not just static images, right? It's about motion too. Which brings us to the 60 hertz refresh rate. Smooth visuals, okay, but what does 60 hertz really mean in practice? Especially when things are moving fast on screen.
Yeah, the 60 hertz refresh rate is critical for making video look natural and fluid, especially for anything fast-moving. Think watching sports in a bar, or seeing a really dynamic animated ad, or maybe a complex video presentation with lots of movement. 60 hertz basically eliminates that annoying motion blur or judder or choppiness you sometimes see. Without it, the image can feel kind of broken, distracting. 60 hertz makes the difference between content that just flows and content that feels, well, jarring. And that impacts how much people actually watch and understand.
Right. Now, this feels like the really big shift, the core of the deep dive, network-based distribution, the AV over IP part. I can imagine some people thinking, isn't it just easier to run traditional AV cables for, say, 24 TVs? So beyond just saying it's flexible, what are the maybe hidden benefits or efficiencies of using the IP network that aren't immediately obvious?
That's a really good question because, yeah, the initial setup might seem a bit more complex to some. But the hidden advantages are huge. One big one is cost savings, especially over the long haul. Traditional AV cabling. That often needs specialized installers. The cables themselves can be expensive, and troubleshooting or upgrading can be a nightmare, seriously difficult. With AV over IP, you're leveraging your existing IT infrastructure, your IT team. They likely already manage the network, so they can often manage the AV distribution too, which means simpler maintenance, quicker troubleshooting if something goes wrong, and ultimately a much lower total cost of ownership over the life of the system. It's not just buying a box, you're kind of future-proofing your whole AV setup by integrating it with your IT.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense from an operational standpoint. But network means lag sometimes, right? We definitely don't want delays, especially for live stuff. So that brings us to low latency. What does that feature guarantee in the real world? And what happens if the latency isn't low?
Oh, low latency is absolutely crucial. It's non-negotiable for anything happening in real time. Imagine a speaker presenting, maybe interacting with content on a big screen behind them. If there's a visible delay between their action and the screen, it completely breaks the connection with the audience, makes the presenter look off. Or think about interactive digital signage, maybe in a museum or something. You touch the screen, you expect an instant reaction. Any noticeable lag, even just a fraction of a second, it just ruins the experience. It's frustrating. So these WolfPack splitters, they're engineered to minimize that delay down to basically imperceptible levels. Ensures everything's perfectly synced, audio, video, interactive elements. It just works.
Gotcha. Okay, so beyond just sharp pixels with 4K,
Wow.
we also see HDR compatibility listed, high dynamic range. For our listeners who know a bit about tech, what does HDR really add that 4K resolution by itself doesn't quite capture?
That's a great way to put it. Think of HDR as adding like another dimension to the image quality,
Right.
visual depth. So 4K gives you more pixels, HDR gives you better pixels. It dramatically expands the range of contrast, the difference between the brightest whites and the darkest blacks. And it also expands the color range, the color gamut. So you see much brighter highlights, deeper, more detailed shadows, and just an incredibly richer, more vibrant palette of colors. Colors that are much closer to how we see things in the real world. For content where that visual pop really matters, like high-end advertising, maybe architectural visualization, product showcases HDR delivers this wow factor. It makes the content really jump off the screen, grabs your attention, enhances that emotional connection.
Right, that makes sense. And it's not just about what we see, is it? These systems handle audio too, audio support. We tend to focus on the screens naturally, but why is getting high quality, perfectly synced audio just as important in these setups? What's the impact if the sound is bad?
Oh, it's absolutely critical. A truly compelling AV experience needs both great visuals and great sound. They work together. If the audio is out of sync, even slightly, or if it's distorted, peany, poor quality, it just instantly drags down the whole experience. Doesn't matter how amazing the picture looks. Imagine watching a corporate video with narration that sounds like it's coming through a tin can and slightly delayed. Or being in a sports bar where the roar of the crowd doesn't match the touchdown on screen. It's jarring. High-quality, synchronized audio creates the atmosphere, delivers key information clearly, and reinforces what you're seeing. It's often the unsung hero, ties it all together, makes it feel professional and engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the product name specifically mentions to 24 TVs, but then the description also talks about being easily scalable. Sounds good, but what does scalability really mean in practice if you're setting up a big system? Are there hidden upsides to this kind of modular approach?
Scalability is honestly one of the biggest long-term wins with AV over IP. And yeah, there's a hidden benefit. Peace of mind, really. You don't have to perfectly guess your needs 5 years down the road right from the start. You can begin with a smaller setup. Maybe just a few sources and displays, like the 1x2 or 1x3 configurations these WolfPack units offer. And then, as your needs change, maybe the business grows, you add more rooms, you need more screens, you can easily expand. Add more receivers, maybe another transmitter, maybe upgrade your network switch. You can grow to dozens, even hundreds of displays without having to rip everything out and start over. That modular growth. It means less money tied up initially, much more adaptability later, and it really extends the life of your investment. It's about future-proofing.
Managing potentially dozens of screens, maybe spread out across a building or even different sites. That sounds like it could get complicated fast. So what do features like remote management and security actually do to make that manageable?
Yeah, those are absolutely crucial for making these systems practical to run day to day. Remote management, usually through software or just a web browser interface, means your tech team can configure the system, monitor its status, even troubleshoot problems from basically anywhere. They don't need to physically go to every single screen or rack location. That saves a huge amount of time, travel costs, effort. It's about efficiency and security. That's non-negotiable these days. These features encrypt the AV signals traveling over your network. It protects your content, especially important in corporate settings where you might be showing sensitive data, or in public spaces where you don't want signals intercepted. It ensures only the intended displays show the content.
Okay, last key feature here, compatibility. We all know tech compatibility can be a major headache. Proprietary systems locking you in. How do these WolfPack devices address that?
That's definitely a big plus here. These systems are designed with compatibility in mind. They're engineered to work smoothly with standard, widely available network switches, the kind your IT department probably already uses. And they work with various existing AV gear too. This open standards approach really helps avoid getting locked into one vendor's expensive, proprietary ecosystem. It makes integration into existing IT setups much easier, much more flexible. Businesses don't have to overhaul their entire network just to add or upgrade their AV system. And, the fact that these come from established players like HDTV Supply, who mentioned having 24 years in the business, being an HDBaseT.org approved adopter.
Right, I saw that. HEB-based adopter, what does that signify?
But being an HDBaseT.org approved adopter, it basically signals that they adhere to a well-established global standard. HDBT is all about reliably sending uncompressed HD video, audio, control signals, even power, over a single standard network cable. So it points towards a commitment to interoperability, reliability, making sure things work well together. It adds a layer of confidence.
Okay, so bringing it all together, what does all this tech mean for you, listening right now, even if you're not planning to install 24 TVs anytime soon? How does understanding this stuff give us insight into the world around us?
Yeah, it's a great question because even if you're not deploying it, this technology is shaping our environment. It really makes you think, how is this advanced AV distribution changing how we experience, well, everything? How we get information in public spaces, think airports with real-time flight info everywhere, or malls with dynamic ads, how businesses communicate, from crucial alerts to just building their brand image in the lobby. This tech, this AV over IP stuff, it's the invisible backbone, enabling all that seamless, high-quality visual communication we increasingly just expect. It makes our surroundings more informative, more engaging, more dynamic. Often, it's working so well we don't even notice the IP network doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
So we've really dug into what seemed like maybe a niche bit of hardware, right? But as we've unpacked it, we see it's actually driving a huge amount of the visual information that surrounds us every day. It's a fascinating example of how this underlying tech shapes our daily experiences, sometimes in ways we don't even consciously pick up on.
Absolutely. We've covered the what and the why, from that super sharp 4K resolution that builds that subconscious feeling of quality, to the smooth motion from 60 hertz keeping us engaged, and maybe most importantly, the incredible flexibility and those hidden long-term efficiencies you get from network-based distribution. This technology really shows how our digital lives and our physical spaces are merging, becoming more interconnected, more visually rich. It lets us see and interact with high-quality stuff almost anywhere, and it's getting easier all the time.
Which leads to a final thought.
Yeah, thinking about how seamlessly these systems now blend high-quality video right into our standard computer networks. What new possibilities does that unlock? Maybe truly personalized experiences in public spaces. Imagine walking into a store and displays subtly shift based on your known preferences, perhaps. Or what about dynamic interactive education, collaboration across huge distances, where every screen isn't just showing something, but is a live, responsive portal? How might our everyday environments really transform when basically every screen can be easily managed, updated, and become part of a larger, intelligent network?